Welcome back. Today we're going to be working on translations. Our content objective is students will be able to perform and describe how to transform figures on a coordinate plane. Our language objective is students will be able to explain verbally how they transform a figure on a coordinate plane. Why am I learning this? Well, it's important for real-world problems like the creation of video games. So there are three types of transformations that we're going to go over in the 8th grade. Number one is translation, and that's today our main focus. So basically, a translation is when it slides a figure along the line without turning. So that is our main focus. However, we are going to touch base on what a rotation is. A rotation is basically a turn. It turns a figure around a point called the center of rotation. And then we also have reflections. A reflection is basically when it flips a figure across a line to create a mirror image. So here, let's take a look at some examples. It says to identify each type of transformation. So looking at the red figure in comparison to the blue figure here, you're going to notice that it was flipped over. And for that reason, since it is being flipped over the y-axis, it is called a reflection. Number two, now here, look again here, this is our image and this is our pre-image. What happened? Well, this image got translated to this one. So translation is basically a sliding of the figure. The figure doesn't change its orientation, it doesn't change its size, it's just being slided. So here the figure slides across a straight line, so therefore it is a translation. Now here it says identify each type of transformation. Again, what's happening? Well, this is essentially being slid over, so I'm going to go ahead and call this a translation since the figure was sliding across a straight line. Number four, what about this one? This one's definitely not a sliding. This one's actually a rotation. You'll notice here the rotation does preserve the size of the shape. However, the orientation of the image is not the same as the pre-image. So since a figure turns around a fixed point, I'm going to go ahead and call this the rotation. Okay, so now let's take a look at some translation. What is a translation exactly? Well, basically what's happening is a translation, like I said, it's sliding a figure. So if I was saying, I want this figure to be moved in this direction, you're going to see, look, it's sliding in that direction. What if I made it slide down or across? Notice no matter how I translate this image, okay, the size of the shape remains the same, the orientation stays the same, okay? So notice this particular transformation preserves the size as well as the orientation. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back to our lesson here. Okay, so again, just to reiterate, a translation is basically a figure sliding across the plane with no turning whatsoever. That way it preserves its size and it preserves its orientation. So one thing that we're going to do is look at the coordinate notation. How do we write it? Well, this is basically a formula that explains the translation, what's happening from the pre-image to the image. Okay, so here if I was given -2, 5, so I'm going to plot that point, -2, 5, and 3, -3, so 3, -3. What is happening? Well, in terms of the change in y, I'm noticing that it had to go over 5 to the right. And then in order to change the y values, it had to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So with it down, it's going to be a -8. So here, you can also show, okay, from a -2 to 3, we added 5. So how I would start that notation is to first start with x, y, like it shows here. I'm going to go ahead and draw an arrow and say, okay, so the x is changed by adding 5, so it's x plus 5. And then what about y? Well, the y's were changing by -8. So I'm going to go ahead and write y minus 8 because that's how the values for y are changing. So this is what you would consider your coordinate rule. The coordinate rule is basically x to y changes how so? X's we're changing by adding 5, and Y's we're changing by subtracting 8. So that's how you would show your coordinate rule. And again, this basically describes the translation. So again, we have our pre-image, what we started with, and then we have our image, which is after the translation. So here, again, if I were to use letters, I would use a capital A to represent the pre-image, and the image would be a apostrophe. So the pre usually doesn't have the apostrophe, but the resulting transformation will have that tick mark there. Okay, so number 5, it says use the coordinate notation to describe the translation below. So here we're given two shapes, and we're asked to go ahead and describe the coordinate notation. So here, what's happening from M to M prime? So this is your pre-image, and this is your image. Well, from M to M prime, I would have to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the left, so it's -6. And it would have to go down 1, 2, 3, 4. Since it went down, it's also a -4. So just to give you a quick idea of what the ordered pairs would look like, I went ahead and wrote them down. M is 1 to 3, M prime is -5 to -1. So if you weren't given a graph to look at, you could have still also said, okay, so how did 1 change to -5? Well, you had to subtract 6. And how did 3 become -1? Well, you had to subtract 4. So no matter what they give you, they can give you a graph, which is nice and easy for you to count the actual change. But if they give you an ordered pair, you should still be able to find the change as well. So it doesn't matter if you looked at the M's or the N's, you're going to get the same coordinate notation. So for this reason, I'm going to go ahead and say X comma Y turns into, well, X, what happened to the X's? I had to subtract 6, whichever way you looked at it. And for the Y's, what happened? Well, we had to subtract 4, or you can see it here. So please, whichever method they give you, whether it's giving you a graph to look at or an ordered pair, you should be able to do either of them. So once again, this is your pre-image, that's what you start with, and after the transformation, then would be your image. So now let's go ahead and pause the video and try number 6 on our own. Okay, so let's see how well we did. For number 6, hopefully you recognize we want to find the change in X's first, and then we're going to find the change in Y from J to J prime. So hopefully you recognize, hey, to get from J to J prime, according to the x-axis, you had to go 7 to the right, and then traveling the y-axis, you're going to have to go down 2, which is -2. So that information is enough for me to write my coordinate rule. However, again, if you were given ordered pairs like such, what you'd want to do is recognize, okay, how did the x values change? Well, from -2 to 5, you had to add 7, and from 4 to 2, you had to subtract 2. So this again is enough information to allow me to write a coordinate rule, whichever it is, whether they give you a graph to refer to or just ordered pairs to go off of. And it really doesn't matter if you go off of one ordered pair versus another, you should get the same answer. Hopefully your answer was X comma Y yields, let's see, what happened to X's? Well, you had to add 7 to the X's. And what about the Y's? Well, you had to subtract 2 from the Y's. So this would be your coordinate rule. So once again, your starting image, which we call the pre-image, is this one here, JK. And then our image would be J prime, K prime. So that's how we read it. We say J prime, K prime. We don't say J apostrophe or K apostrophe. Now let's go ahead and move on. Here it says change each description of rigid motion to a coordinate rule. So it says move 6 units to the right. Well, if it's 6 units to the right, that's an X change. And then here, 3 units down. So down, that's going to be a change in Y. So you have to be very careful that when you read the description that you're matching it up with the actual coordinate rule. So here, of course, we're going to do X comma Y. Changes to, well, what's happening in X? If it's moving 6 to the right, that's going to be a positive change, so we're going to do X plus 6. And then 3 down, so that's a change in y. So since it's down, we're going to do y minus 3. So this is our coordinate rule. So now let's try number 8. Here it says move 2 units up. So that is a change in y, okay, since it's going up. And it says 5 units to the left. So that is going to be a change in x. So notice I'm dissecting it and I'm taking a look at, is it a change in an x value or change in a y value, because you have to be very careful, because the way you write the coordinate notation does matter in what order you place the numbers. So here we have x comma y is going to be changed to what's happening to the x's. Well, the x's are moving 5 to the left, so I'm going to take my x values and subtract 5. And what about the y values? Well, the y values are going 2 up. And since it's up, we're going to go ahead and add 2. So notice here the trickiest part is recognizing, hey, the order in which they gave the information doesn't necessarily match up with the order that you're going to write it. So here they said 2 units up, but that was written for the y's, and 5 units to the left was written for the x's. So please be very careful. So at this point, to go ahead and try numbers 9 and 10 by yourself. Okay, so for number 9, hopefully you wrote down that since this is 3 units down, that's a y, change in y, and 4 units to the left, that's a change in x. So it should be x comma y gives you, let's see, x, since it's to the left, we're going to subtract 4. And for the y, since it's going down, we're going to subtract 3 as well. Now here, for number 10, it moves 4 units up, so that's going to, again, be a change in y. And 2 units to the right, that's going to be a change in x. So to write it, we're going to do x comma y yields, let's see, change in x was 2 to the right, so that's x plus 2. And change in y, that would be y plus 4. So hopefully you double checked the order of the way it described it and matched it up with the order of how you should write a coordinate rule. Okay, so let's go ahead and try number 11. Here it says the triangle below is translated 5 units right and 4 units down. 4 units down. Draw the new image. So they gave us a description of what we should do, so let's go ahead and follow it. So the instructions are to go 5 units to the right and 4 units down. So here, let's just start with a point, which is, again, our pre-image. Just start with C. I'm going to go ahead and follow the instructions, which is 5 units to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 4 units down, 1, 2, 3, 4. So here, since it's our new image, we're going to call it C prime. Now let's start with point D. Again, we're going to follow the instructions, 5 units to the right and 4 units down. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 4 units down, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this I would call D prime. And then last but not least for E, following the same instructions, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then down 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to go ahead and call that E prime. So now that we have all ordered pairs written down, what we can go ahead and do is go ahead and connect the points together to create our transformation. So something that I want you to recognize is the fact that, hey, this shape here is identical to this shape, okay? Not only that, but the orientation of CDE is the same as C prime, D prime, E prime. So something to be very mindful of is the fact that translations will preserve, which means keep, okay? They will preserve, let me spell this right, preserve a couple things. It's going to preserve shape. Notice the shapes are exactly the same, and they're going to preserve the size. Notice they're the same exact size, but they'll also preserve the orientation. Okay, notice it didn't rotate to something else. So something to be very mindful of is those things. Now, real quick, another way of doing this would have been to recognize the ordered pairs. Hey, point C is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so negative 5, comma 1. Point D was negative 2, comma 1, 2, 3, 4. And point E is 0, comma 2. So with this, you could have went ahead and used your coordinate rule. Let's go ahead and create that real quick. From x to comma y, it's going to change x's, let's see, 5 to the right, so that's x plus 5. And the y's are going to go 4 down, so we're going to subtract 4. So here, just follow it. What happened to the x's? You're going to add 5. So negative 5 plus 5 is going to be 0. So c prime is 0, comma. What happens to the y's? We're going to subtract 4. So that's going to be negative 3. So notice c prime was 0, comma, negative 3. Let's try it with d. Here, what's going to happen to the x's? We're going to add 5. So d prime is going to be negative 2 plus 5, which gives us 3. And the y coordinates, we're going to go ahead and subtract 4. So 4 minus 4 is 0. Let's double check that that happened. Is d prime at 3, comma 0? Absolutely. So one last one just to prove a point. Let's do e prime. For the x's, we're going to go ahead and add 5. So 0 plus 5 is 5. And for the y values, we're going to go ahead and subtract 4. So 2 minus 4 is negative 2. So is e prime at 5, comma negative 2? Yep, it does match. So notice there's different ways of going about this. Using the graph and following the instructions is really nice. But if you're only given ordered pairs, you got to understand how the coordinate rule could be used to give those new images of c prime, d prime, and e prime. And last but not least, please remember translations are going to preserve these following things. It's going to preserve the shape, meaning the shape isn't going to change. It's going to preserve the size. It's not going to get bigger. It's not going to get smaller. And the orientation is going to stay the same. So it's not being rotated in any direction at all. So on that note, since I went ahead and showed you an example, I would like you to go ahead and try the next one on your own. Okay, so now let's go ahead and go over number 12. Number 12 says to draw the image of rectangle ABCD under the translation 4 units to the left and 3 units up. Find the coordinates of the image. So first what we're going to do is go ahead and perform the translation, and then once we've done that, we're going to go ahead and identify the new ordered pairs. So I like to start in alphabetical order, so I'm going to start at A. I need to go 4 units to the left and 3 units up. So 4 to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3 up, 1, 2, 3. So here is my A prime. Now on to B, I'm going to go 4 to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 3 up, 1, 2, 3. So there's B prime. Same thing with C, we're going to go 4 to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then up 3, 1, 2, 3. Here we have C prime. And last but not least, let's do D. We're going to go 4 to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, and up 3, 1, 2, 3. So there is my D prime. Now that I have all of the new points plotted, let's just go ahead and connect the points together to create the new image. Once again, since this is a translation, we went ahead and preserved, let's write this down, a translation preserved what exactly? Well, it preserved the shape, it preserved the size, and it preserved the orientation. That's something to keep note of whenever you're translating a shape or figure, since it is just sliding across a coordinate plane. The shape isn't changing at all, the size isn't changing at all, and the orientation isn't changing at all. Okay, so now to finish the instructions, it does ask me to find the coordinates of the image. So they are going to want A as well as A prime, B as well as B prime, etc. So let's go ahead and do that. So first, taking a look at A, the ordered pair was 1, comma, negative 2, which turned into A prime, which became 1, 2, 3, comma 1. So negative 3, comma 1. Now we're just going to repeat this process for the other ordered pairs. For B, originally it was 1, 2, 3, 4, down 1, so it's 4 comma negative 1, which became B prime, which is 0 comma 2. As for C, we have, let's see, 4 over 4, down 4, so that's 4 comma negative 4. C prime is, let's see, 0 comma negative 1. And last but not least, let's go ahead and do D. D was at 2 comma negative 4. And D prime was negative 2 comma negative 1. Now, once again, if you were only given these ordered pairs here, could you still follow the same? Could you still get these ordered pairs as well? Absolutely. You could have used this and created your own coordinate rule and followed it. So for a coordinate rule, it should have been this here. X's were changing by 4 to the left, so that's minus 4. And the y's were changing 3 up, so that's going to be y plus 3. Using this on the given order pairs would also yield the A prime, B prime, C prime, D prime as well. So whichever is asked of you, you should be able to do. So that is actually going to conclude the lesson for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, until next time, bye.